I'm Rob Sarney, and you're listening to What the Heck FinTech, where you'll experience and learn that FinTech is Fin Life. Let's get started. Welcome back to part 2 with Liz Thomas. If you didn't hear part 1, please go back and listen to it to hear about Liz's amazing background and how her college sports, what she did internationally in the UK and Australia, and her great work at Fintech Sandbox and Mass Fintech Hub truly prepared her for the role that she's in today. And here's going to be my question. I understand banking, but I think you get involved with a lot of different things too. But I'd like to hear what, and I could have a total misconception on this. Now, do you help them and advise them almost like as a service, or is it all banking services, or is it funding, or because how do you, like, what are the different areas that you really get the opportunity to help these startups in so many different angles? You just hit a lot of great topics that to tell you the truth, I would think banking wouldn't do that, but you're doing it. So what is that? Like, what are some of those things that I'm going to learn a lot in this process?
Sure. Well, I'd say that's the difference between if you're at a retail bank, that's going to be more like your personal bank. I don't have a personal banker, so I don't have someone advising me, but this is kind of more on like a wealth manager. Maybe at some point you're going to have somebody, one-to-one giving you advice. So that's kind of the difference between a retail bank and a technology banking group. We have a smaller amount of clients, and we're going to really take the time to learn their whole business and advise them. And so to answer your question, how might we advise them? It really is kind of across the board. So I work with companies, anyone who's raised from approximately 2 million. I'll talk to people before then, of course, but all the way up to about 2 billion in revenue. And then they kind of graduate to the next team at Wells Fargo. But basically anything from, when they're thinking about raising money, who are potential VCs or investors, maybe they could think about family offices. There are a whole different groups that maybe they haven't thought about going to for potential capital. And then at the next point, if they're thinking about should they raise, should they take on debt, we'll talk to them about what are their options, what are the pros and cons. If they're not quite ready for, maybe Wells Fargo, maybe we'll introduce them to another partner who can help them at the stage that they're at. So we're really making those warm intros to help them all the way through. And then, of course, when they're thinking about their treasury management, so their business checking account, we can always help them with that. We can talk to them about where do they want to keep that money for the highest yield or the least risk. So kind of all of these topics we can advise on. And then, of course, we can just, help them just any of those topics really. Or really, if they're thinking about the future, are they going to potentially do an acquisition, do an IPO? Maybe they want to be talking to some investment bankers. Maybe they also, if they're thinking about they might be getting some shares vesting, maybe they should talk to a wealth advisor so they can make sure they're thinking about the right tax implications. So really, my role and the bankers I work with, it's really to just understand all of those concerns. And if we're not the right person to advise them, to bring in the right people at Wells Fargo to do that.
Wow. So you're really like a master connector too, in many ways, really helping people, really think things through and pulling in others to really help them grow. Now, 2 million to 2 billion, that's a big range.
That's a big range, yes. So they'll have very different needs, yes. So
yeah, those really are very different. Are there commonalities there? At even from a 2 million to a 2 billion, or is it like really night and day, like the challenges and what they're looking for?
Yeah, I think that commonalities are, they're all looking to serve their customers as best as they can, use their money the most efficiently as possible, extend their runway as far as possible. But obviously, once you get up into the, hundreds of millions and billions, it's much more, they have many more options. So that's when it's much more advisory role as well, because they might be, thinking about certain types of maneuvers financially that might be more interesting, or they just have different trade-offs that we can help them with.
Yeah, and because you see such a wide spread, do you ever I don't even know if you're probably not even allowed to do this. Question I'm about to ask. Say, Rob, we can't do this. But do you have a point like some of your clients to each other because they have synergies naturally that they can help each other because you're hearing both sides of the equation and you're like, wow, I know this person, they can help you and you can help them. It's like a win-win-win, you know? Does that
Yeah.
happen or does that not happen at all?
I'll say that absolutely comes up from time to time. Obviously, only if it's mutually beneficial for both sides. But, we've had times where other parts of the bank have said, we're looking for a certain solution for one of our clients. Do you have someone who does this? And we can make that intro. So I think that's just another, value add that a technology banking group could provide is it's really not just the team here, but it's the wider team and kind of the client books across the bank. We have 200,000 employees here, so we have one of the largest banks in the country. So we have a ton of other clients that we potentially can find opportunities with.
And do you get to connect internationally too, or are you staying in our New England region, or like what's your boundaries?
Yeah, so I'm focused on New England, but there's, I think, 9 of me across the country. So we're actually really building out our tech team right now. I was the third hire about 9 months ago, and now we've got many more. So that's been really exciting to watch this team grow. But also, Wells Fargo, we're global, but our main focus is really, US, Canada, and then we do have some European offices as well.
You've talked about scaling a bunch of times. What does that look like, and how can you help their scaling? Is is it it probably depends on what their product is. How do you get them to scale and are they always looking to scale like super fast, or do they probably depends on the founder, or do they want to do it more of an even pace because their team's only so big and they can't handle a fast scale? How do you balance that? Because it probably depends on the founder, on the product, on a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is just kind of support the founder, CEO, CFO's current plans, and maybe we'll share some benchmarking with some other, clients in that area, obviously all anonymized. And then potentially we'll just talk about their financial options. So like I mentioned earlier, is raising another round. That's one idea. Potentially they're looking at taking on some debt. So it's really just talking through, what are their options? What are the trade-offs? How can we help with that? If they need intros to VCs or other capital providers, we can always help with that. And it's really just kind of being a partner in that way.
On the founder tech, when does banking shift from being a commodity to a true strategic advantage? Like, what are those attributes?
Yeah, I'd say for a founder, when it really shifts from commodity to strategic advantage is once you've maybe found your product market fit, you've maybe raised a seed round, maybe series A, once you have a little bit of capital, and then potentially when you have a few customers coming in the door. It definitely depends industry to industry. Some of those come before the others, depending on the industry you're in. But I'd say once you have that, you definitely want to be thinking about, your partners, who's on your team. I bought a house a few years ago and you just thought about who's your team. You put your whole team together, your agent, your lawyer, right? So as a founder, you really need to be thinking about when you build out your whole team,
Mm,
who's a banker who's going to be on your team and helping you grow and helping expand that network for you. If
right.
you're at a place where they're not doing that, maybe think about, how can you get more value out of your team?
And when that happens, when that shift happens, do you see those other team members also reaching out to you for even more help?
Yeah, I'd say probably we're going to potentially already know some of the other team members, whether it's investors, they're probably going to be in our network, or lawyers or accountants. We obviously have great relationships with a lot of them, or fractional CFOs. So yeah, we can definitely help also build out that team, right? If there's other
Mm,
gaps that you need to fill.
right. Yeah, because you always have gaps, and you always don't know what you don't need or know, right? And then so yeah, but having someone help you and coach you and connect you, I mean, that's huge, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when the shift happens, I guess, right? That's awesome. I love that. So I have kind of a standard question I usually ask. So you hear the mantra of this whole podcast, fintech is fin life.
Right.
When you hear that, what rings true to you, or how do you connect? Do you connect with that?
Of course, I connect with that. So I think just fintech, it's so ubiquitous. It's so in everything that, we don't even see it, right? So I was thinking two examples is number one, just e-commerce, right? The fact that you can buy almost anything on your phone. You don't even need your card. You just look at your phone and and the transaction goes through and it shows up on your doorstep the next day, right? And then the other was, I was taking the train in this morning, and I remembered when I was a kid, you'd have to go buy tokens. You'd line up to buy these tokens to get on the MBTA. And then at one point we were buying, those cards, the T-Pass for their cards. And now I just tap my credit cards at the, turnstile and keep moving. So think about all the efficiencies that have come into our lives because of fintech that we totally take for granted, but our lives would be, way less efficient without it.
Yeah, I got a funny story when you're talking about the tapping. So talking to Marilyn, my wife, and she said she saw this video. It was a 4-year-old little girl, and it was a Disney, kind of a big Disney person, as you know. And she had a wand, right, and with a star on the end of it, right? It was a magic wand, and the grandfather was having her use it. And what it was, so she could pay for it, it actually had a slot for the credit card, and it was like mad. She was paying by tapping the card, because you can tap. She was tapping and buying it, and she thought it was like magic money that was happening.
Oh,
So this showed you how imagine, but and then because we're gonna go on a Disney trip, we always do, right? And I'm bringing my children, or not 4 years old. They had 30 and 27, and the significant others. We're taking them, and she goes, I should get that for Rachel and Jared so they can do it. And I go, yeah, do it. How much do they cost? She goes, I don't know, $10. I go, oh, it's so worth it. That way they can pay for things with their credit card and just
that's
tap.
beautiful.
buy that, Mickey bar. Boom, with the. So I'm gonna ask some rapid fire questions now. You ready? You
Yep,
lose? I don't. Do you touch your toes? I don't
of
want
course. Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
get those
Stretch out.
goalie gloves on. You got to be able to catch them, right? Get those big mitts. So let's see here. So these are rapid fire, and
Yeah.
let's go with your gut on this one. What's the one trait? What's the one trait the best founders you've worked with all share?
Yeah, I think it's focus. They focus on, their innovation, their problem, how they're going to solve it, and they can tell that story really well.
What's one fintech trend that is overhyped right now?
Yeah,
They
as
like
someone
sick of it,
who,
you know?
as someone who, loves personal finance, the embedded finance and all of these really easy credit solutions that checkout sometimes make me a bit nervous. Are we over indexing on these facilitation products at the expense of people's personal financial well-being?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Making it too easy, right? What's the one fintech area that is underrated but will matter a lot in the future?
Agentic commerce. I'm so excited about the opportunities for agentic commerce. Imagine that you set up your agent to go buy for you while you're making dinner, or you set up your agent to book your flights for when the price comes down while you're at work. I'm so
Right.
excited about this.
Right. You already set you gave it the parameters. What, if it hits certain price, buy it right away because I know
Yeah.
that's a great price. Or hold off if it's too much, right? But that airline or that gift you're looking to, get for yourself or
Yeah.
for someone else too. All that. So you get the maximum. Is there sales? This and that, 'cause that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of time, right? And a lot of brain power looking around. So no, I'm excited about agentic commerce and all the opportunities there.
Yeah. Even like with if coffee goes down to this, get it from Amazon or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it is. It could be anything,
Strike.
right?
Yeah.
You have all your parameters set up and just let it run and keep it updated. So you have to keep your rules updated so it knows what to do. No, yeah, and I agree. I think the whole agentic shopping and it's like your own personal shopper that knows you, right? And you got to feed it the right data, obviously. What's what's the one thing every startup should improve immediately in their financial setup?
I think they should be working with someone, a tech banking group that understands how to help them scale, get away from the bank that you maybe work with personally and the retail side and work with someone who's on your team and wants to help you grow.
Yeah, that's a great one. Now, lastly, we talked about a lot of great things. I know that, this audience is going to want to connect with you. What's the best way for this audience to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it something else? And do you have any events that you want to showcase and it's for our audience to know to make sure they keep an eye on it?
It's a good question. Definitely LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn, maybe too much, but if you reach out to me there. And then, no, we don't have any events right now, but if we do, I'll be sure to put them on my LinkedIn page. So look for me there.
There we go. Perfect. Liz, I want to say thank you so much. Thanks for giving us this insight. Thanks for educating me, on Wells Fargo technology banking, what that's all about. It's so helpful. And I just love the new role you're in, what you're doing, how you're helping founders and 2 million to 2 billion to 2 billion in revenue. That's amazing, right? So I just love how you're constantly always, building and driving this fintech ecosystem. And I just love to see you thriving in general. That's awesome. I love these stories. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thanks, Rob. It's always so great to connect with you. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. And yeah, if I can help with anything else, please let me know.
Oh yeah, I will. I'll pull you in. Yeah, that's what I do. Okay. So thank you so much, Liz. And I want to say, hey, thanks everybody. Thank you for listening to What the Heck FinTech. Make sure you tune into our next episode as we continue to interview fintech leaders and share real-world stories from across the fintech ecosystem, so you can fully understand that fintech is fin life.